idea came to me one day when we were working with Patra, which is one of the bigger companies out there that provides virtual assistants. And it just wasn't working for me. It was like fitting a round peg into a square hole. And the level of knowledge that these virtual assistants had was not there. And we didn't have direct contact with anybody that we were working with. And I approached Randall and said, hey, I think this would be something we could really do, provide educated insurance professionals that were virtual assistants in the Philippines, South America, and Kenya, and do it right and give the support to insurance agencies like mine that were struggling with getting people to work, whether that's locally or internationally. So with that being said, I always like to bring value to people. And Dawnyel, a fellow insurance agency owner and aggregator, she's amazing, and she's done some amazing things in her career, and she's just doing even better things. So I'm really excited to have her on the webinar today, and she's going to share a lot of the things that she's been doing lately and what's worked for her and other insurance agency owners in the industry. So welcome, Dawnyel, and excited to learn about operational excellence.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate being a part of this. I appreciate your partnership with you and CLI and InsureAssist, and also from one female agency owner to another. It's been so amazing to see you blossom in your career and just inspire people and inspire me. So thank you for being such a quality person and such a great leader. So thank you.
Thank you.
A little bit about me. I have been in the industry for 20 plus years. I have decided after 20 years, that's enough experience without aging yourself to go further than that. I've been very blessed to have different peaks in my career. And I was captive previously before I went independent in the early 2000s. And I was part of a network group that was, an aggregator. I ended up buying the network in 2008, and it became more of a network at that point in time. And so how I differentiate that is that networks are really providing extra services besides just aggregating premium and providing carrier contracts. I've also owned my agency since the early 2000s, independent agency, still in an independent agency owner as well. And so from my experience, one of the things that I wanted to bring to the table, to you, Jessica, and your audience, is that I really see that agencies are very sales minded and they have systems and technology for that. But there is a gap between best practices agencies and also agencies that are, not paying attention to the operations, not having the systems in place like they do for their team, for the sales, and also for their client experience. And so my passion is to try and marry in the operational excellence and also the sales-minded culture of an agency. And I'm one of those weird birds where I do both. I really love sales, but I really love systems, processes, and creating efficiencies within, agencies and being able to help them that. And then I actually test it a lot in my agency too. So definitely wanted to give a background of where I've come from, why I'm speaking about this today, and how this could really be your secret weapon as an agency if you can find a way to marry the two together. Often sales and operations bump heads together, and really it should be a very seamless process between both sides. So the independent agency advantage, there's 39,000 plus agencies across the nation, and that's not really changing. I serve on a lot of carrier councils, and I can see from the statistics that come out from, like the Big I, that that's not really changing. There's a lot more captives that are going to come over to our channel, even though we've had a lot of mergers and acquisitions. We've maintained about the 39,000 plus of agencies across the US. Now, 349, that number stands for like independent agencies across the US that have earned the best practices agency designation in 2025. And it's really the high level of operational, financial, and management sophistication that I want to go over today and be able to show what makes those 349 agencies different, perhaps, than other agencies. And what that equates for these 349 agencies is that they have an overall organic growth that is 10.7% growth, compared to most agencies average about 8% at the highest measure. So really, like, the operations can lean into the cells, and I'm going to show you how that works hand in hand together. So what are the challenges? What holds agencies back? And really, like, the top one, InsureAssist helps a ton with this, and that is really talent and retention. Like, insurance is not what people say is a sexy industry. It's not one that a lot of people choose. There's a lot of stories that people just fell into it. I'm one of the strange birds that I did choose insurance. I really loved that there was an opportunity to educate, and there was an opportunity that you weren't limited in regards to the income you can make. So, and there's residuals in there too. So I think really on the part of talent and retention, like, we call our team a dream team. And so we have dream team invitations for people that we think might be a good fit for our team. So really, talent and retention, if you don't have a recruiting plan, and I believe in you recruit always in all ways. So you let you carriers know, you let anybody know that you're always looking for good talent, and put it out there. And too many times I see agencies and they're not verbalizing what they need in their agency. They wait till it's too late. They scramble to try and find somebody, and then it becomes a disconnect. And usually those hires are pretty, they don't stay on. So then you got to figure out, what is your talent and retention strategy? And a way that we've worked with virtual assistants has really helped bridge the talent, gap that we've had, and helping us, especially with our account managers, doing client-facing relationship skills where they're not going and attaching policies. And so virtual assistants have been a part of our plan, but it also, from an operational side, there's a cost savings there compared to if you had a full-time employee too. So we do marry that together as the recruiting side, and then also the retention of our staff is that we help them stay on, like, relationship type of projects.
Dawnyel, I was just curious, in regards to talent and retention, because I this is something that obviously even now my insurance agency struggles, right? What are some tools that maybe you utilize to find account managers or even producers to identify them, right? So someone can say they're a producer all day long. Someone can say they're a really good account manager all day long. Are there any tools that you use to identify talent?
I actually ask a lot of our underwriters for people that they find that are talented, and ask them to kind of recruit for us. So that's been one way to find talent for us. We've also used recruiting companies. Now, if you're an executive and you're not very good at, like, taking the time to interview and go through those applications, I feel like there's a cost savings to that. If you take and you figure out what your hourly is worth as an agency owner, for me, I would rather have, depending on the type of position, especially if it's like a lead account manager, you need somebody that has a lot of experience, perhaps even in a niche, those are going to be even harder to find. And so we've used recruiting companies to help us find somebody. And for us, I feel like the cost of time that we would spend to try and find somebody and then possibly not have a good match is worth paying a recruiting company to do that. And we've only done that in the last couple of years. Before, it was like we tried to do all in-house. And then I realized the value of recruiting certain types of talent.
Thank you.
Yeah. And another thing, a challenge that agency has, is technology gaps. At CLI, we have Albert on our team, and he helps our agencies understand their tech stack. A lot of agencies have a ton of technology. They get what I call technology ADD. They buy technology and never truly implement correctly. And so you have overlapping technology that crosses over each other, whether it be on the sales side, the operational side, but it's never really being used to its, most potential. And so a lot of agencies focus on implementing only the AMS systems or the CRM platforms, but no system to manage operations. And so when I see an agency, a lot of times operations are on sticky notes. That's not a good way to manage it. So operations should be an experience. Like when you onboard your team, you should have an onboarding experience that's in a system. Like ours is in a system. And so before they even come to their first day, an employee, they already have an experience in a system that's able to welcome them. They get a welcome package, and it just creates a better experience. It ties back into the retention of your team because they know you care from the beginning and they understand the roadmap. So operations needs a roadmap. It needs a system that needs to be logged. And most agencies don't even have a system at all that ties all that together. So another thing is that with operations is the strategic planning. So they'll be planning about, sales goals and what are we going after this year? But really, what's the whole vision? What is the management of, like, if you want to do mergers and acquisition opportunities, what does that look like? What is the pre-planning? What is the integration after merger and acquisition? I've done 9 myself of mergers and acquisitions. And so I have a pretty good idea of what not to do. And I wish somebody would have said when I first started doing it, like have a pre-plan and a post-plan. Also making sure you have KPIs that are not just sales related, but really employee satisfaction, putting together also like vendor satisfaction, your carrier satisfaction, like how do you measure that if it's going well and your results there. Project management and agency workflows. I know you're a master at this, Jessica, because you do that. Sure assist. You focus on it. Not everybody focuses on it. And so I know that about you. And so like having those agency workflows, so there's consistency through, whatever position that you have, is really important to have it. And then profitable growth is really understanding what does profitable growth look like. We'll look at the sales part and agencies like, oh, I grew by 20%. And it's like, is that net growth? Is that after expenses?
Is that after losing 30% of your business on the back end?
Yeah, exactly. So like, I always like question that because it's like, where do you need to really be? And so I really wanted to bring some of the measurables in to agencies and be able to show you like kind of what you should have in place. So operations that drive growth. Okay. So yes, we're a sales organization, but what kind of things can you do operationally that can support that and support the growth? So number one, we've already talked about workflow automation. It's really important to lean in now with AI too. I know that we're reducing processing time more than 40%. Our account managers are using AI to go and do policy comparisons and presentations. And we're going from hours of work to put together a large account, 2 minutes.
Yep.
So it's more than 40% for us, but you should at least be looking at ways to integrate technology to create the efficiencies. And then also there needs to be a knowledge of how to use it properly. So there needs to be workflows that are created with the automations and the AI. So everyone on your team understands how to use it. And it needs to be repeatable, and you need to be going in there and changing those. And it needs to be a breathing, living workflow.
Well, so, yeah, I would agree. Like, just because AI is there doesn't mean someone doesn't need to be monitoring it and taking care of it and making sure that it's not making mistakes. I agree with Wayne. I've gone down a Claude wormhole. But I think it's important to identify what tools really work and which ones are, like you said, redundant, and really kind of spend some time figuring it out, because it is something that is going to save so much time.
Oh, absolutely. Another thing is producer development. I have a background in education. I was a sixth grade teacher before I came into insurance. So for me, like making sure that people that come into our industry are educated, but not only that, that there's producer development, not just once, but continued development. That's the thing that's really important. So as you're putting together training pipelines, it would be also including people that have been with your organization, not just currently and they're new, but people that have been around for a really long time, because people can get set in their ways. But if you continually create a learning mindset with your entire team, then they will keep growing with you and not become stale. So I think it's really important that we do that as far as like any position within your team, but especially on the producer side, we kind of let them, like we give them some training and then we go hunt, right? Well, the industry changes, policies change, and the way we need to sell changes. And so that's really important to make sure that the training pipelines and the accountability frameworks are there in order to help them develop. And then financials and sales discipline. When you're doing your monthly KPIs, like you need to understand, is the compensation benchmarking working? How are you doing with count rounding, expense ratio management? You want that under 30% as far as best practices when you're looking at that. And then overall, I feel like the operations that help us the most is the client experience. You know, creating a digital experience for them. Clients are on their phones most of the time. So if you can interact with them on their phones and your systems allow for that, then it drives a higher retention. So that's really important to figure out, like, how does that client experience look? So we have in our workflows, we have a map that models out the client experience with our team, and it matches it to the technology that we're using in order to create that experience. And you need to make sure it's actually working too. So if you have a map and you haven't actually like taken and done the whole map and seeing if the map is actually working and tying it together, and you have checkpoints with your clients that yes, this is working, then you haven't really created a client experience that's positive. You've created a client experience that's clunky.
In regards to financial and sales discipline, I would say that probably in the last 2 years is when I really figured out that that was way more important than I realized. It's kind of just flying by the seat of my pants before that. And I really dialed that in the last couple of years, you know, just putting together a budget. What is your monthly expenses? What's coming in? What's going out? You know, employee retreats, bonuses, things like that. If you don't have that dialed in and you're just like, oh, willy-nilly, I'm going to spend $20,000 on this and don't have KPIs to justify giving out bonuses or having the employee retreat. And building in that, you know, anywhere from 10% or 20%, you know, revenue, and seeing if you're growing right at that level. I think it's just been a lot more of an eye opener on what you spend on a monthly basis and things like that.
Yeah, definitely being aware of that and being on top of it, like, and it helps your stress on top of it too.
Yeah.
It definitely helps you do that. And then Sarah in the chat asked if there's specific AI that's geared towards insurance. Sarah, Safeco / Now Liberty has an Agent for the Future webpage, and they have a really great graphic that shows different type of AI that's being used in the industry. So that's one of my favorite places and spaces to share some of the AI that is out there specific for the insurance industry. So if you need that, you can let Jessica or myself know, and love to share that with you. Now let's talk about KPIs. So what are the numbers you need to pay attention? And really, like, operational profit margin target needs to land between 25 and 30. If it's over 30, you're more on the best practices side of it. But, you know, later on, if you're building a business, you know, eventually you may want to sell it. So you want to take a look at is like, how do you maximize that? So I'd be watching that. When you're in growth phases, sometimes it may dip a little bit if you make an investment. So like, for example, I've made some investments in some niches, including like a construction niche that I had, and I made some investments with bringing in a producer, bringing in different marketing, and I knew that was going to dip a little bit for a little bit while. but I knew it would bounce and go over that number again. So kind of just be aware of like the margin. If you're in a growth mode or starting something new, it may dip a little bit, but that was like 20 years ago when I made that investment. I knew I wasn't selling it the next day. So like wherever you're at the life cycle of your agency, is be very conscious the last 3 to 5 years that you're keeping within this margin or better. And then really for client retention overall, and this is overall between personal lines and commercial lines, you really want to maintain a 93% plus client retention rate. I know with the hard market, that's been more difficult over the last couple of years. And especially when carriers look at us and we're like, well, we didn't lose the client. We just moved the client from you to somewhere else during the hard market. So you really need to make sure you understand how to measure your retention rate. I think a lot of agencies don't even know how to get that metric. So you got to figure out how to get that metric. And there's a lot of different resources that can help you with that. When you're looking at an employee revenue per employee goal, you want to get about 175K per employee is what you're looking at for it to make sense for your margins. And then we had talked about the 10% plus on best practices agencies of organic growth rate. And then we also talked about having less than a 30% expense ratio. And then really the close ratio is a 60% plus. And I know like my team, we track this and we were at about a 50%. And then we created guidelines from our referral partners that said, these are the type of leads that we will take. So for us, we got quite a few leads that were within classes of business that we were never going to write. So why even start the lead? So like for us, towing risks are not a class of business that fit well with our carrier makeup. So we made it out there known to our referring partners that we were not going to take any towing risks anymore. So that's saving time from your team and focusing on how do you bring up the close ratio. So sometimes you got to look at the book of business in totality of the type of leads that you're getting and really say, is this the type of business I want to be taking in? And I want my team to get working on in order to get that 60 plus percent close ratio. And then really like scaling without the overhead. One of the things you do excellent with Insure Assist is that you give agencies the ability to have fractional work. The same thing can happen with operations. So, we've partnered with a fractional force that I've invested in where we help with strategic planning, where if you're doing growth roadmaps, M&A readiness, and maybe this isn't your skill set, we can help plan with you. We can also help with process audit optimization and workflows. And then also financial oversight too, is understanding those numbers and getting them set up. So once you get it set up, you don't have to have a full-time operational person. A lot of agencies can't afford that, but they really need to be more solid in regards to their operations. And then this right here is just a QR code. This will get you to the ability to take a test basically of, are you operationally set? And what does operational soundness look like? And so if you click on that, it'll go through and it'll show you where you're strong and where you're not strong. And we felt like that was a really good way to show agencies of like, what does it mean to be operationally sound? What are the things that we need to look at? And so that's something that we offer for free for agencies to take a look at.
And honestly, this is something, that I've heard over and over lately is if you can get your processes in place, streamlined, have the right people in place, really a well-organized agency, making sure you have your P&Ls and everything all ready to go. When you are ready to exit, your multiple based on EBITDA is going to be significantly higher. And so something to think about, maybe spending a little bit more money now to get yourself organized and get the structure right. But yeah, when you are ready to sell, if you have all this in place, other agencies are going to be interested in you more than others. So highly recommend any kind of, instituting any kind of structure and operations and SOPs. It's huge.
Yeah. And my favorite thing about when you have operations in place and you're taking a look at it, you're looking at your KPIs, is that it also helps with culture.
Mhm.
It may not seem like it, but it does. Just as much as sales gets people excited and motivated, operations, when it's sound, it gives everyone an idea of what success looks like. And so
Yeah,
people want to be a part of your culture if they understand, how do I win? And
right.
that's something like I always say, okay, how are people winning in our company? And if they don't feel like they can win, then typically you're not giving them either sales opportunities, or operationally, they don't know how to measure success. So they could be successful, but you haven't shown them how to measure it quite yet either. Or, have key expectations on it too. I mean, I would love to hear, Jessica, from a training side from you. It's like, I know you've worked and honed that with your team. So like, how has that evolved for you? Because I know we're a totally different organization than we were 2 decades ago, as far as like, training and operations, and
Yeah,
you,
I mean,
you've worked on that.
we have literally built out a process and procedures manual through Trainual. That's one thing that we've done. And so you can literally log into Trainual, search up what process or procedure you're looking at needing to do, and you can find it. And we have to constantly, obviously, keep that updated because things change. And so, one of the things that we encourage our employees to do is like, hey, if they're asking a question, well, have you checked Trainual yet? Because we've spent so much time building that out. And we have that for Insure Assist as well. So any of our team members out there that are in the field working for other agencies, they also have that as a resource. And then I'm building one for each management system. So we're going to have one for the main management systems we work with. But yeah, I mean, it's huge to be able to have the resources that the employees need, and KPIs and expectations, and a reward system. For example, we're looking at being able to provide a swing shift for some of our virtual insurance assistants, so that they're on a normal time zone. They've been with us for almost 3 years, and feeling like that's a great way to reward their tenure and how hard they've worked in this organization. So just really figuring out ways to support our employees every step of the way.
Yeah. And we've evolved during the years with our technology. So like, it used to be that operations long time ago was on a spreadsheet, right? So that was step one, getting us organized. What was the different parts of operations we were going to look at? Then we changed over to Basecamp, and I liked it because it was project work. Now, these are not systems that are insurance based that we used. I like taking systems from outside of our industry and then bringing them in and seeing how to incorporate them. So like, Basecamp was the first step, and it allowed us to do project management. So like, when we had a new employee, we had a dream team onboarding project, and it had all the steps of what they needed to do, and it had in there all their paperwork they needed to complete. And then we could had a template. So then all we had to do is, when we had a new employee come in, it would start the template. It would email them out and it said, welcome to the dream team, and it would create the tasks and do that. So we have changed over to, we tried Planner for a little bit within Microsoft, because we're like, how do we get not as many systems, right? Like in our workflows. And Planner with Microsoft was really good. It was hard with outside people, because when we bring agencies on, we have an onboarding experience for a new agency that comes on board, or a new carrier. We have an onboarding experience that we do with them too. And so we looked at Planner. So if you have Microsoft, it may work for you as an operational kind of dashboard for you in project work. Basecamp can work too, but we have, in the last couple of years, we brought on the platform called Zoho. And why we liked it is a couple of things. It allowed us to get rid of a couple of different systems. One, we used HubSpot for our marketing, and it got rid of that. We used DocuSign for our e-signature, and we got rid of that. And so then we had we got rid of Basecamp as well. And then we brought project work into Zoho, e-signature into Zoho, marketing into Zoho. We were able to customize it the way we wanted to without having to hire a programmer. So you can look at Salesforce, but it's super complicated if you want to change a field.
I would say
and,
no.
And so we were able to bring in Zoho at the fourth of the cost of what just DocuSign was alone. Yeah. So our expenses went down almost 75% by doing this. We had more flexibility. We had one system. So I would say look at different systems and see which system's going to be able to combine and do what you need it to do. And so our evolution just kept changing. We kept trying to say like, okay, what technology is out there, you know, not maybe in our industry that we could take a look at and then be able to bring it in. And that has been our solution the last couple of years. And it's definitely streamlined us. It's made us more efficient. And from a cost perspective, that is a huge cost savings for it too. And so like we were looking at that. I know Michael says Planner looks good, but it's cumbersome. That was our experience too. That's why we quickly just went over and moved from Planner. And then Sarah asked, how does that compare to EasyLinks? So we use EasyLinks a lot. 95% of our agencies use EasyLinks. We actually created a management system, my husband and I, in 2007. It was web-based, and it was a CRM and management system all in one, and no one would adopt it in 2007. They're like, that's crazy, it's web-based. And now look where we're at. So we actually partnered with EasyLinks when they came out with their management system, and we beta test a lot for EasyLinks. EasyLinks has some things in there that are great, but it's more utilized for a agency management system and a CRM than truly creating project work that is more consistent with operational excellence.
And I would say, you know, we, the same thing, right? Trainual is actually also our onboarding system for employees. We have a whole introduction Trainual about our goals and our metrics and things like that. And then we, same with you, DocuSign, we use Indio. Indio is how we get out, because we're obviously a commercial insurance brokerage, 98%. So one of those things is Indio, you can have all the supplemental applications in there, all that good stuff, but it also, we can send things out for signature through there. So it saved us a lot of money moving over to Indio as opposed to DocuSign. So everything comes through this one portal for the client. It also helps with security. So same thing, just figuring out ways to cut costs.
Yeah. And as far as e-signature with EasyLinks, we have some agencies that do use the e-signature with EasyLinks. Zoho was actually cheaper for us than EasyLinks when we were taking a look at it. And a lot of what we do from a corporate side, it's not client facing. Our clients are a little bit different. Our clients are our carriers, our clients are our agencies. Yeah. And so we utilize it a little bit different. But I do like the way that the EasyLinks is integrated in there for the e-signature. So we do have agencies that utilize the e-signature. So I would say that would probably be my second choice for it, if you can have it in your management system, whether it's EasyLinks or another management system, and have it integrated. So I definitely think, like, no matter what systems that you're looking at, make sure you test it to see, like, are they open to integrate with, like, perhaps if you're using Outlook. So like when we have a carrier that sends us an email, I'm able to stay within Outlook and then be able to hit the apps and connect it to my Zoho. I don't have to leave my email. I can still have my workflow sort of be within my email, just like how EasyLinks has the plugin that you can do that. So all of our systems, we try and go, okay, how do we have it attach and connect to the other systems that we have? So then you're not leaving the workflows that you're trying to get into as much. So like, just keep that in mind when you're looking at systems. Can it integrate with other systems that you have? Some systems are kinder with their APIs than others, and some of them just don't want to play nice with others. So you just want to make sure you understand the connectability factor when you're looking at a software. So Jessica, in your operations, what do you feel is your strongest KPI? I just was curious of that you feel like that's the one measurement that you try and make sure you follow every single month. Like you have your pulse on it.
I would say retention.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really, really important thing, for us, right? We have one of our values is white glove service. And so I don't like to lose a client over our service. And so retention is a huge piece of our KPIs and revenue, right? I'm paying attention to that every month as well. We have a huge lofty goal this year. And so, I really want to get there. And so that would be my other big KPI.
Yeah, I look at the net growth with my team, and I look at it from a premium standpoint with my team because my premium resonates with them more than revenue for our team members. So like really looking at the net premium growth, the net revenue growth, because sometimes it doesn't always follow suit with one another. So sometimes you got to look at some carriers pay more than others. So it just depends on what that will look like when you have a premium versus net revenue type of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael asked what can move and what will the cost be? So I think management systems, like I agree, it can be costly if you move it, but really your operations system typically isn't within the management systems. It can't do everything you need to do, like use Dawnyel with the onboarding side of it. And usually the management systems can't do that. So it's definitely, it can be costly. It depends on how much data you have within the system, but I wouldn't say move your management system to be able to take care of your operations. You just need to figure out what system you can use for operations and be able to track appropriately. So it may be a couple of different systems that you be using that tie in together. Like if you're using for the HR side, like it's not just training. So you may have, one project that manages everything links to like a Dawnyel, or if you have a payroll company that's handling your payroll, like we have a payroll company handling the payroll. Well, in Zoho, they have their project and then it links to the payroll company. So then they can get their documents, complete everything pre-hire, and then also set themselves up for like life insurance, health insurance, and ancillary benefits, and being able to do that. So you want to see how to link it all together. The operational system should be like the hub is what it is. And really the operation should be the hub of your organization, but the spirit should be sales. Like you have to be a sales culture. If you don't sell anything, there is no operations. There is no money to do any of those things. So I look at it as like, it's the hub for the back end of your agency and your culture and tying in, but you still should be sales motivated. Because sometimes I have to make a decision. Sometimes that operationally the team's like, well, I don't like that. And I'm like, but we need to do it because we need it for the sales, right? So it's one of those things you kind of have to balance it a little bit in some ways, but I'm more of a salesperson, so I'm always going to be pushing the envelope a little bit. Like operationally, this may be a little bit clunky, but it's bringing in revenue.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to fix it on the back end.
Right. Or, and I know that, yes, being aware of issues and costs to move away from a management system, there's always going to be, a little bit of a headache. But if in the end that management system is going to save you time and revenue because of all the tools that can be integrated with that system, that's huge. So, that's the old, with Epic, for example, that's why we use Epic, because there's so many tools we can integrate, including easy links. We can integrate Indio, we can integrate all kinds of other tools, add-ins with API capabilities, and it can definitely streamline things.
I think one of the things I see agencies fail at is that they don't realize that the management systems can do as much as it can do. And so they don't go deep enough. They don't go in there and like, there's been changes to the system. They're like, oh, 5 years ago, it didn't work for me, so I'm never looking at it again. Right. but the management systems evolve. So you
Yes.
have to keep going back and saying, okay, we're going to test this and see, do we want to add it to the workflow? So like every Tuesday we have what's called C2C. It's collaboration to creation with our team, and it's people's processes and partners. And so we are looking at partners being like our carriers, our vendors for the team. We're looking at who are our people, our referring sources, and then our processes. And we're deciding, is it a time to, integrate a new process, refine a process, and update it, because systems change. And like I said, it has to be a breathing type of process and workflow. And so, but you have to designate a time to do that.
Right.
And it would be with your team, because if you dictate it to them, there's not buy-in. So our team all, says they review it, they go through it and say, yes, that's how it's working in the system, or no, we really should refine this part of it. It's not working. Like, if you click there, that's not going to do what you're saying it's going to do. And you're going to have to do it, like update it. So we have like our major processes, like new business workflow for commercial, right? We will look at that twice a year to make sure it's not every single Tuesday we're looking at it. We're looking at it like twice a year, or if one of our systems, changes and does a material change, we may move it up a little bit. So you're going to have to flex a little bit on workflows dependent on the technology, because if the technology has updates or enhancements, you're going to have to change your workflow. So if you don't, you have somebody new come in and they're like, this is not how this works, then they're going to be lost. You're going to lack consistency. You're going to lack efficiency within your agency.
Yes, exactly. And Michael, yes, I agree with you. It doesn't mean that you can't move, but definitely do your research, see what the cost is going to be, what kind of hurdles you might have doing that big move, especially if your book is a very large book of business. And how can that new management system help you with that integration and moving your book of business to a new management system, but being aware of all the things that could potentially happen through that process is something you really need to be aware of, just like a prenup.
Yeah. And on that is, if you are, we've helped agencies move management systems, and we put together a plan. What does that plan look like? And, the management system companies will tell you, oh, here's the plan. That's not the plan that you have with your team. It doesn't work. It doesn't work with your team. And so a lot of times what we suggest to agencies is gamify it. Make it fun for your team. So when you finish this phase of the rollout, because it's going to be extra work for them, it's going to make them feel uncomfortable, because most people are not good with change. And then B, it's just they're not going to be as fast as they were on the other system too. So like you're going to lose some efficiency there. So like really make it fun and celebrate, milestones as you're moving over into any system, not just a management system, any system. Like I would love to gamify everything, like to and to get people like involved. The more you can do that, the more fun it is. Like we just had the event that you were at with Summit, and we had our vendor and carrier expo, and we put it in a different type of setting than you normally would have. And our theme was Summit. So we had a trail map, and everyone had, their stamps that when they visited different parts of the trail or a different vendor or carrier, we put a stamp on it, and they got to have a prize for it. Well, it just creates a conversation, and you can do the same thing for your team because they've gone through a lot of changes over the last 5 years. If you think about it, like COVID happened and we became either hybrid or totally remote type of industry, right? We went through a hard market, and now we're going into a soft market. So like the last 5 to 6 years have been an incredible roller coaster for our teams. So I always think about like, how is this going to impact them?
Well, even with Wise, you had that great icebreaker where we walked around and asked people, if they've done certain things to fill like a bingo box. So it was fun. We had to fill it up and really got to know people and what their favorite things were to do. And so that was fun too.
Yeah. And I think if you're leading operations, some of the things I've learned through the years is that you may have your heart set on something. And sometimes a leader, we just like tunnel vision, right? Like, okay, we're doing this is what we're doing. And then the feedback loop gets closed sometimes. And so you're not getting the feedback. And so like, I have a sentence that I stole from Brene Brown because I love her. And that is really when you see yourself shutting down, instead of telling them, well, that's not the direction we're going. This is the direction we're going. And talking at them, I just stop and I say, okay, tell me more. And how does that work? And so the tell me more gets me to open up and take a breath before I decide that I am right. And it has allowed me to let my team have a voice in the direction like that we're moving things and the way we're handling things. And then sometimes I may go and decide that what I thought we were going to do, we're still going to do. Or I may tweak it a little bit and listen to what they have to say. And so I think operationally, if you're leading a team, is that it took me a long time to just like, I don't have time to listen to why you don't want to do this. And it feels like you're fighting me on this and I just need it done, right? It's like that SNL skit where I think it was Jimmy Fallon when he was like the computer guy and someone would have a trouble with a computer and then he'd just like just move. And I think we do that a lot to our team. It's like, I just need you to move. I don't need you to talk. And in order to create the culture and tie it into operations and also ultimately tie it into sales and increase in revenue, you just got to listen sometimes and take a breath. And so I learned that a lot as I feel like I'm like a grown up, business owner.
Awesome. Well, I think we've kind of come to an end here, but I would like to give the group a couple minutes if they have some questions. Looks like Joby's typing. And Sarah.
So Michael, when you're talking about prenup, I have this grid that I made a long time ago whenever I'm looking at technology, and I put it in there. What do I think the first 3 months look like, the first 6 months, the first year, and 3 years from now, what it would look like? And so I put in there some of the things that I'd be worried about, like what would be roadblocks, concerns for that technology, what would be things that I need to make sure the team understands, like there's clarity, communication throughout the process of putting it together before you sign the contract and then decide that you're going to go with that technology. So I just have a grid that kind of tests it out for me of certain metrics of like, is it going to hit these things? Do I have a clear answer? And then I ask the technology company of whatever technology I'm looking to implement these questions. So that, like, hey, in 2 years, 3 years, what's your roadmap look like? So then I can see how I can grow with them. I think right now, sometimes we take technology and it's a good solution for right at this moment, but then in a couple of years, it may not be a good solution for us anymore.
Very true. Dawnyel, you want to type your email in the chat? Sarah's wanting to get in contact with you.
Absolutely.
Oh, and there we go. Thank you for that, Mark.
Just like on it.
But yeah, so we do have all her contact information. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And any other questions? I see Michael typing, so. Oh, Michael says he remembers hearing of you before.
Yeah, I've done a lot with IAOA. I feel very blessed to be a part of that group and, been able to speak several times. So, Michael, I love all of your comments and questions in here because you're spot on.
Oh, hi, Lee. I know Lee. Thanks for joining.
I think we all have on this call. I've been around the block a bit.
Exactly.
We're not the babies anymore. I remember when I came into the industry, I was like, I didn't realize how young I was, which I think was good because I was like full, you know, steam ahead. And now I look back and I was like, oh my gosh, I was so arrogant and so cocky. And I was like, but it kind of served me well because then I was like, what's the worst they can say is no, was kind of
Right.
my attitude. So I
Mhm.
probably asked a lot.
Yeah,
And
I was also a little more aggressive in my approach, and like you said, probably a little cocky. And yeah, it was definitely. I look back now, and I'd have friends that were like kind of in sales that were quite a bit older than me, or business owners, and like, Jessica, you need to calm down. It was probably good advice. So. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dawnyel, for joining us today. We really appreciate you. Thank you to everybody that was here to listen. Dawnyel, you always have some great advice, and you definitely inspire me. And have a great, what is today? Thursday. All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.